Hello.
Hitting the button.
Hey everyone,
Hello.
we're live. What's up?
Yeah, we are.
Welcome to Q&A time with me and Will and Sam. How's it going?
Oh boy.
It's been a while. Everyone's nervous.
Been a little bit. Been a little bit.
I think Will and Sam are worried about an echo. Does anyone hear an echo? Will, tell us how you're doing. And
I'm doing great. I'm here in sunny El Segundo, California, right near LAX, and had a nice class this morning. Sam was freaking out because you can hear my echo, but I wonder if anyone else can. How do we see the chats?
let us know if you worried about hear an echo. There's 13 people here watching live.
Yeah.
Mary, what's up? Sam, what's up? How's it going, Sam?
How are you, Sam?
I'm doing well. I'm just listening to Will's echo.
God damn it.
Yeah, I got a haircut. Chopped up all my hair. That's probably the most exciting thing as of late. And it was raining here in Santa Cruz, which was very strange for this time of year.
Oh, big time echo. Big time echo.
For me?
The Prof 3000.
That's
How come I can't hear this echo?
I think it's echo from both Sam and I.
Okay, I'm putting in my headphones. Sorry guys, technical difficulties. It could be...
Oh.
Should I leave?
Wait a minute, but if Phil's not hearing it, and only I'm hearing Sam's echo, and Sam's only hearing my echo, then it's gotta be on mine.
Who's got the echo though, everyone? Is it both of us with the echo or just...
Go. Does anyone hear an echo? Will, tell us how you're doing.
Should I leave?
Wait a minute, but if Phil's not hearing it, and only I'm...
Okay, sorry. I was listening to the YouTube video.
I was like, what is happening? That is a major echo.
Oh, there's no more echo.
We're professionals. Oh, yeah. I don't hear an echo from you either.
Oh
my gosh, Bill. It's all your fault.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Should have
Phil.
known.
I'm like, well, I don't hear the echo, but it's just like because
it's gone from my end, so now maybe it's better back. I don't know. We gotta figure this out. You think of so many years. No more echo. Great, we did it.
We know what we're doing. Anyways, okay.
What's up?
Hard start. What's up? Welcome to the Q&A, guys.
Hard start.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We got people here. Thanks for being here. Let us know. We're going to be getting to your questions very soon. But it's been a long time since we've been live. It's been like, I think we did one at the very start of 2025. Will and Sam, but starting with Will, can you share what you've been up to this year? Anything interesting video or photography related?
Man, this year of 2025, so much. So many things. I'd say in general, in the last year, I started teaching at a university and community college. So, your guys' teacher here is moving up in brick and mortar world. So I'm teaching introduction to video production. I'm teaching documentary filmmaking. I'm teaching cinematography. So many things. I'd say in general. That was someone else, not me. And then outside of that, during the summer, I was working as a wrangler on a ranch up in the Eastern Sierras and as a photographer wrangler. So I was taking photos of guests as they would come to this guest ranch that was also a working cattle ranch. And so I got deep into running a photography business in a resort kind of style setting. So I've learned a lot about mass amount of photography every day, editing photos every day, turning them around for people, family portrait sessions, all the things. So that's pretty much what I've been up to. And I put my gear through the ringer this summer. So that was fun.
What were you using up at the ranch?
So for daily rides, when I'm on horseback, I had actually a custom built saddle, like a horn saddle, basically go on the horn of my saddle, and it held my Sony, almost said Nikon, my Sony A7R5 with a 70-200 f4, and that would sit in the saddle so I could click it in and click it out. So when I went loping or trotting, it would stay there, and then I could unclick it and take photos while we were out riding. And that was kind of the biggest part, was when people were like actually like loping and galloping and stuff on horses. Those are the great, good photos. And then for family portrait sessions, I use my normal trusty Leica SL2 S.
Right.
Is that right? That's right. Yeah. Like, I've had that camera forever now at this point, but that was a really good portrait. I would not take that camera on horseback. One, because it's heavy. The A7 is much lighter, and two, and we can get into this, Phil, the autofocus on Sony, I still think is like absolutely unbeatable. So.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that
when you're shooting birds.
we're gonna have to talk about that. All right, Sam, what have you been up to?
I've been really focused on the video end of things, I would say. Always sort of have my Leica Q3 on my side, but basically all video work. Been working with Stanford University over here in Palo Alto a bunch. Got a couple documentaries. Actually, a feature that I shot is going to be playing in a theater up in San Francisco later in October, which I'm really excited to see something I shot on the big screen. And yeah, just been keeping pretty active in more video production world, and I'm actually we're redoing. I've also been doing some website design and whatnot, and I'm going to be doing some product photography. And so I was actually looking at, just got some paper backdrops, seamless, and was thinking through how I'm going to approach all that, taking product photos of glass bottles. So yeah, but not, it's been fun chatting with Will about his work and everything, just being in like client photo world throughout the summer and talking through some of his work processes and stuff. But yeah, definitely not a whole lot of photos for me lately.
Is that the San Francisco Rising doc?
That is.
Oh, nice. You finally have that. Is it all edited yet? Or
it's edited, color corrected, sound design, graphics, titles, opening animation.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So should be fun. Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, I was distracted by the audio. I think I figured out the issue, but am I coming through my microphone? Tap.
No.
Oh,
you sound good though.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Anyways, I think I was sharing the audio from like my screen. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Will, you also mentioned before hopping on the call that you deactivated your Instagram account.
Yeah.
What does deactivated mean?
Yeah.
It means I can't handle Instagram, but I didn't want to delete it. So you can choose to deactivate it or you can delete it. And deactivating apparently just means like it's deactivated, as in no one can see it and it's gone, but it's on, all the photos and stuff are still saved on their server somewhere. So if at any point I'd like to reactivate it, I can just get back on and everything should be in existence. Which, to answer your question, there's a question here in the chat that said, any footage from the ranch you could share? Yeah, there was a bunch of my reels and stuff up there until about 3 hours ago, and now it's gone.
Well,
I just put
that
you can go to their Instagram, Honeywell dot ranch on Instagram. It's there's also a YouTube link I put in there of a video that Sam and I did actually on the Sony FX3 a year ago, and we did a commercial for them, and we've done a lot of content for them. Yeah, I don't know. I had a really good experience on the ranch. I didn't need the Instagram to like sell stuff, and I'm in a place now where I don't necessarily need a live Instagram to make sales and stuff, and I'm just kind of over it. So I think I'm ready to like experiment. I've experimented with every type of like, I'm just using Instagram for work and check out my photos and like how do I get it out there, or I'm just going to take a break from it, or I'm only going to put work on it, or I'm going to like focus on my website, not my Instagram, and just delete it off my phone. But I went ahead and just deactivated that sucker. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it last week when I did my live photo review session a little bit, I think. But yeah, I didn't even deactivate my account, but I just logged out and deleted the app, and I haven't been back on, which I think um, I don't feel like I want to go back on yet. So I mean, I feel like deactivating is like the next
I
iteration.
just skipped over that. Yeah.
Um,
I think there's a discussion to be said about photographers though, and social media and Instagram, and like how does that feel, and what your goal is, and are you trying to get clients, and like, you know, having a website, how do you push stuff out? So
yeah,
maybe a longer, deeper discussion on our next live.
yeah, and also we talked about it. If people are interested, or we talked about offline, if people are interested in, Will did this whole rant. He was like the wrangler photographer on the ranch. A lot of it was dealing with families who came up and pitching them different packages and delivering photos and building out a whole system for like doing a lot of family photos and
High
basically like
volume
high,
photography. Yeah.
yeah, and how you did that. I think it'd be fun to basically break down that entire system in a future live stream.
Yeah, I would love to break that down. And remember, I was talking to you guys when we did our photo dash, which we can talk
Mm-hmm.
about at some
Yep.
point, on how I was going to package that, how much I would sell downloads for versus prints,
Yep.
how I would handle editing photos every single day. And I
Mm-hmm.
came up with a lot of tips and tricks and LUTs and systems and cards and battery charging capabilities and cameras. And I think I figured it out on top of, learning how to be a wrangler on a ranch. So that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another thing behind the scenes that we've been texting about is me feeling like I want a new camera that's not a Fujifilm. I don't know if I'm
Is that a
willing to
whole
admit
live
that
stream
yet,
we need
though.
to dedicate to, or do you think that we can figure that out all right now?
Uh, yeah, there's a lot to get through in this therapy session, guys. It might need to be like a recurring session. But people here, welcome. We have a lot of familiar faces. Thank you so much for being here. If you have questions, please pop them into the chat. We have a couple questions from Very over in the community on the post. So post any questions. We're happy to start answering questions whenever anyone has any or thoughts. But while you are doing that, if you're thinking about questions, let's get a rundown of what the latest cameras people are using in the chat. So post in the chat over on YouTube, over on the YouTube page, what camera you are currently using. I think speaking of sort of the Instagram issue, Very had a question related to a personal website and a personal portfolio, and talking about or wondering about how do you get more traffic to a page, a website, specifically your own personal website. Um, do you guys have any initial thoughts or ideas on that?
Yeah.
Go, Sam.
Sam, what do you
Me?
think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I've been talking too much. Go.
Okay. So first and foremost, I would say is SEO. So depending on what you use for your website, every photo, every page, everything you basically, depending on the website builder, you can add in SEO, and you want to be really precise with what that is. I worked with a website company that helped rebrand my whole website, and they really went in and like, when you go to my website, it says like, filmmaker and photographer, California, Shimizu Jones. And then, um, so, region based, what I do based, these types of things. So when people are searching, they're finding it. And then the other thing that they really recommended, if they said if I wanted to build traffic, was doing blog posts, and that basically having routine activity through your website helps it on the Google searches. So if people are searching for a photographer in your area, or a photographer with a Fuji camera, or a photographer, these types of things, you like actively posting, and it's kind of the same algorithm as Instagram and that kind of thing, but it's through a website. I know people don't necessarily read a lot of blogs these days, but that is actually how you generate traffic to your website. Um, and then alongside that, obviously, would be through social media and whatnot. Originally, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, any of these, it was meant to push people to your website ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so posting does help drive that traffic, but also blog posts, that kind of thing, kind of continually updating your website, being active on it, that sort of pushes it up in the search realm. Um, those are my, yeah.
My thought, or I think like the specifics of like San Francisco photographer, like those keywords, making sure that's on your website is so important. I think my initial question would be like, why do you want someone to go to your website?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a personal portfolio or website is really ever, unless you become like the top 1% of photographers, it's not going to be a place where people are just like happening across your website and you're getting a ton of traffic just from just people wanting to look at your photos on your website. So I kind of think like, okay, why do you want someone to go to your website? And is it, okay, are you a local photographer that you want people to be able to find information about you, samples of your photography? So like having those keywords, having a Google business profile so that you show up on Google Maps, on Yelp, on these other review sites, like that's very important with links to your website. Very asked the question, and I know she's more of like, at least right now, like a street photographer, experimental abstract photography. And I guess the question is like, okay, for a person like her, how does she get more traffic? And why would that even be the goal or important, right? Maybe it's to like, if it's to get hired for projects, if it's to sell prints. I guess I'm just posing the question is like, you got to figure out like why you want someone on your website in the first place, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on why you want the traffic. I think if you're thinking about wedding photography and like you said, local photography, it's a portfolio that you
Mm-hmm.
can curate a little bit more easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like here's a wedding I shot in Italy. Here's a wedding I
Mm-hmm.
shot in Orange County. Here's a wedding I shot in whatever. And that's important. And then if you just want to sell prints, that's another good reason. But like you said, it's very rare unless you have some other drive that people are just walking down the street and they happen to the website. Unless you have something driving them there, like Sam said, SEO numbers. Something that I've in mind that I started and I haven't done in like more than a year is blog posts, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so websites that Sam has worked on with other folks, like I know that he pushes like you should do blog posts to create more traffic as far as like words and searchable things, and then you can take those and post those on Facebook and post those on Instagram and post them on Reddit and post them in places. So I don't know. I guess Why do you want traffic there, and then what traffic is it that you want there, and then you'd go about getting it from that point on.
Uh, Another thing for you, very seeing my goal is more exhibitions, prints, collaborations.
Yeah.
I would reach out to gallery spaces, to blog people, maybe websites when you're searching gear reviews or this kind of thing. People that you would want to share your work with, and just be like, "Hey, here's my body of work. Like, I wrote this blog post." Trying to get your website link to show up on other people's websites, that's another way that SEO works in a way. We were working with Honeywell Ranch on redoing their website, and a big way to drive traffic for them is to try and get other organizations to have a link to Honeywell Ranch on their website, because it adds sort of credibility in the web searches. So if you're able to have direct contact and then get people to post about your work, and link to your pages, that's another way that can sort of help get their traffic to then come to your website. But that takes some relationship building.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like it's nice to have a website that shows your best work, and most people will probably happen across it. Like if you are meeting with them at a gallery showing that you have, or if you run into someone and it's word of mouth that they're like, oh, I know this photographer. It's nice to have a website for them to be able to be like, oh, well, here's their website. Check out their work, rather than like not having a website and you have no sort of like credibility basically if someone's interested in hiring you. So I see it more as just like that backup of like, it's not necessarily going to be the first way that someone finds you and hires you or pays you for a print or something. It's just like when they find out about you via word of mouth or via a gallery showing or however else people find out that you're a photographer, it's there to showcase your work. But I don't know. We have a lot of questions, so let's get on to the next question. But any last thoughts about that?
No, I mean, just do you, however you want to present yourself. And I think, in thinking about the Instagram thing, I'm leaning towards going back to blog posts and sharing stuff on my website more so than just social media, because I have control over it and I don't have to worry about other people.
Yeah, I mean, and I've thought about, I had started a while ago, like a more curated blog site where I was putting post of my best photos from different shoots. No one's going to see that. And I don't care. It's more of like, I don't really care. For me, it's not about like getting traffic. It's more of just like having that curated, here's my portfolio where I can showcase my best work, not in the Instagram algorithm or in the Instagram app where no one sees it.
You guys should check out Sam's website. It's very well curated and looks great.
I will say, to someone's point on here, like, why can't I trust gear reviewers? If someone does stumble upon your website, like I've definitely stumbled upon ones upon researching camera and being like, who's this person to say all this stuff about this camera? And then I go through the website and like, either it's like, oh, they're an amazing photographer and they work with these people and whatnot, and like I get sucked in, or it's like this weird AI generated, like half drawn out website that doesn't really make any sense. And I'm just like, okay, next. So if someone does find your website in any of these ways, it is, make sure it's curated to your style and that it's also, somewhat focused on like how you and what you want to be presenting to the world. Because you want it to be that some random person actually stays on there and maybe buys a print or wants to collaborate with you, or and reaches out to you in an easy way. So
all right, 2 questions. The first one's going to be for Will. The second one I'll pass to Sam. So the first one is, I'm going to do my best, right? I have a wedding on Saturday. What's the going rate for a second shooter?
That is very dependent on where you are, and dependent on your own rate, and also dependent on if you have them edit or not edit. So those are 3 obviously like large variables. I'd say in LA and Southern California in general, my actual wedding rate, and I got a wedding next weekend, I forgot to tell you guys about this. Wow. It's $300 an hour, especially if I'm only doing like 2 or 3 hours. I have packages that are like cheaper if you go like 10 hours, but I would not pay my second shooter at $300 an hour. I would probably pay them half, so $150 an hour, or maybe even a little less if I know they're not going to edit. If they're just going to give me photos, I'd probably go $100 an hour. Also dependent on how long you want to use them, right? And then how much your couple wants to charge. If you didn't work at that into your original price, you're going to be eating that cost. So that's not so great. And then how long do you need them for? Probably only like the getting ready and leading up to the ceremony, and then cut them so you have less hours. But I would say anywhere from, depending where you are, $75 an hour to $150 an hour. Higher if you really like the person and they're great, for sure.
All right.
How much did you work as a PA for your first photo gigs?
As a PA?
Or as a second shooter?
A lot. I not only as a second shooter, but when I was in high school, I used to work as a loader. So my photography teacher would shoot weddings with 3 film cameras, and I would have to load the film and unload the film as he was just like, brrr. And then I shot a lot of second weddings with the wedding company that we started. I was like the second shooter, so a fair amount for a couple of years.
But what was your rate though?
Oh, that was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It was probably around 100. Yeah, an hour. I'd say, but I would only get hired for like 3 hours.
Hmm.
So
I think, yeah, wedding photography rates are so interesting. We've talked a lot over the years about them. I think for me, my initial reaction is, or thought is like, I feel like most people would just like be like, okay, what's your day rate? And just, it's like, the wedding's going to be how long it's going to be. And
yeah.
you're just going to be there. That's like how most people probably go about this. But I think it is, knowing, because I did a lot of wedding video, like knowing how long the event is going to be, I think it's a little bit different than like you yourself as the main shooter, like putting out a package and just being like, okay, well, it's going to be 10-12 hour day and this is going to be my package, versus I'm just getting hired to photograph as a second shooter and I'll be there. I don't have the responsibility of all the other things. But so for me, I'm like $100 an hour seems like a lot, especially if you're getting started out, depending on where you are. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe like $300-$400 for like a day rate for like 8 hours of work seems like, I don't know. I also
think it
haven't
just depends
done
on where you're at. Yeah.
I guess.
There's so many. It depends on like if you're in, you know, the middle of nowhere, Utah versus like Los Angeles or Chicago or New York. I think it's going to be a very different story.
Yeah, true.
It's also probably like who's the main photographer on that and what are they budgeting? Because you get in with someone that does destination weddings in Park City, they're going to be charging a premium. But yeah, if you're just getting your chops under you, it's going to be less. So it just depends on who you're working with. And yeah.
All right, next question for Sam. I think you could tackle this one. Emma asks, how do you get the blurry background with people?
So many. Well, it's kind of two ways. Shoot with a lens that has 3 ways. Okay, so a wide aperture that's typically probably more like a f2 f1.4 is going to help with blurry backgrounds. If it's not a very wide angle lens, a more telephoto lens, so something that's probably longer than 50 millimeters, ideally like 85 millimeters up, for full frames. If you're on a crop sensor, that would change. And the third way would be to get closer to them.
Get closer to them, move them farther from the background.
Change the distance between the camera, the subject, and the background.
But if you shot a wide angle at f5.6 and got close to them, you're not really going to get that.
It will get more blurry. The background will be more blurry. Yeah.
Fair.
There are 3 variables. I just taught this morning in my class in cinematography. What are the 3? It was on their quiz.
I guess if you were trying to get into portrait photography, I would recommend that you get a prime lens that's a 50 millimeter or an 85 millimeter, or a lens that on the zoom range is longer, and use that. But also
don't put your background right behind them.
Yeah, have depth. Don't have them sitting against a wall. Have some separation between them.
Use AI and Lightroom.
And you can use AI in Lightroom. That is also
it does exist.
Okay, so just to clarify for Emma or someone like that, because they might just have a lens that they're using and they're not like going out and buying a new lens. So if you have a lens, first off, open up that aperture, that f-stop. So the aperture is the lowest f-stop number. That's not necessarily what you want to do for like a group. You don't necessarily want to be the widest open aperture, because then getting focus is hard. But that's going that direction on your aperture is going to get a blurrier background. Zooming in, if it's a zoom lens, and then just moving them away from the background.
Also, so she has a 50 millimeter and 85 millimeter prime. So the 85 millimeter prime, I would say like f4 would look fantastic still, but you could be at f2.8 or 2 if you want to. I like a little more focus, but then have the background be far away from them. And then also for portraits, make sure, for me at least, the background is darker than the subject. You want the subject to be more in the light than the background being really bright blown outness. There's caveats there, obviously. You could also have a very blown out background if you want, but that's would give you a nice out of focus background. But
yeah. All right.
How many
And
questions?
if Emma, if you're in the photography masterclass, there's a whole section on focus, and there's a couple lessons specifically on that, more in terms of like bokeh, and like the quality of that blur and how you get different bokeh. So yeah, lots in there.
two subjects with the 85, you have to be at probably like a f4, f5.6 even, if you're having troubles getting them both in focus.
Yeah, I mean they got to be on like the similar plane of focus. So like,
yeah.
Emma had another follow-up question. I'll jump to really quick. I'm just going in order, but going full frame, DSLR full frame, or APS-C mirrorless. Oh, interesting. So DSLR, it's not just full frame or APS-C sensor, crop sensor. It's DSLR full frame, because probably price-wise that's comparable to APS-C crop sensor mirrorless. I mean, I would go mirrorless at this point. I feel like mirrorless cameras have been out for enough years that even you can get a used one. I'm on the Fujifilm crop sensor system, and for most things except for wildlife bird photography, it is perfectly capable. But honestly, at this point, there are so many full frame options, it's hard to say don't go.
What camera do you have? Because you already have two prime lenses. I would just stick with what you have.
Yeah.
Unless it's really holding you back. But if you want to get into it, let us know what camera you're shooting on. And it's pretty hard for me to say like go buy a camera unless it's really, you're not able to achieve what you're trying to achieve. But I don't think a mirrorless crop versus a full frame DSLR is going to make or break what you're trying to do necessarily.
Yeah. We can come back to that question. We got this question about getting into corporate photography gigs, not really as interested in doing portraits. Any tips for getting into that niche? I'm wondering if you're asking more like event type photography, or, I mean, there's all kinds of corporate photography work, right? Like event, I mean, corporate headshots, corporate photos for websites, that kind of product kind of stuff. So I'm not exactly sure if you have a specific type you're into looking.
Do you guys remember when I had to do 90 corporate headshots at this corporate place in one day? Rough.
Yeah, I remember you did that. That's a lot of headshots in one. Did you do you got 90 done?
Yeah, I think we were up to like 94, 95, because they were like, oh, we forgot these execs since you're here and they look so great. I'm like, cool.
I guess like regardless of like the type of work, like in terms of getting connections with these corporations, I mean, both of you have done it pretty well with whether it was video or photo, but like Ghirardelli, Honeywell Ranch, getting your gigs at Stanford. Like, what advice do you have just for making these connections and getting actual paid work in this field?
I think all those connections came from our network of people that we went to school with, or people that we were friends with. It was always like someone we had known that had gotten a job somewhere that like recommended us to somebody. And so I don't know. The answer to that is really just like networking and talking to the people that you know, and having a portfolio, like a website or an Instagram, to be able to share with them pretty quickly. That's kind of like how we got the ball rolling. It's not like we cold called any companies. Like we've always just known someone that worked there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that just relationship building and people thinking of you, when they're like, oh, we need a photographer, like, so-and-so does that. And also, going out, and if it's a slow month, like just going and taking photos and expanding your portfolio to do examples of more of the stuff you want to be doing. Corporate photography, like that just means taking photos for corporations. Like that could be any number of things, whether it's lifestyle, portraits, products, So if there's a certain thing you're interested in, like start doing that, and then reaching out to local companies or friends that are doing things, and just doing photography with them. Just keep taking photos, and become the person that people think of when someone in your circle is like, oh, we need a photographer, and you become that person in their eyes.
Yeah.
I think they followed up with more on product photography side of things. I just don't do well with telling people. I just don't do well with telling people what to do.
Mm.
I see, and like that's just like team building, and like photography can be like a single human activity, or you can have a team.
Yeah.
It's easier with a team as long as you get people with you work well with.
I think the thing is like it's good in a sense to specialize in a specific type of photography and get known in your local community for doing that type of photography. It's easy, like the idea of like doing family photography is like forefront in my mind, because I know a few people in our local community that everyone recommends to do family portraits. And there's another lady who is a mom at our kids' school who does product photography, and that's basically her bread and butter. She's relatively new, but she works with local stores and artisans and entrepreneurs who put out products. And I haven't talked to her about how she started in terms of like, did she offer her services for free or whatnot in the beginning. But if you specialize in one thing and you talk to enough people, people are just going to find out that you're the local product photography guy or girl who does this kind of work. And if you're not in a big city like LA, I mean, even here, I'm close to LA, but we're not in LA proper. There's not that many people who specialize in like product or food photography for like all the local restaurants and businesses and mom and pop shops. So I think I think just specializing can help in that sense.
I was just on a shoot at this guy's like pier space that we rented to film in, and he had these photos that were the most amazing fine art photography of exotic cars. And he said that he just was really into car photography, and he'd walk around taking photos of people's cars. And then he went to a car show one time and was doing it. And then he showed his work to someone, and they're like, wait, this is great. And they just hired him on, and all of a sudden he's like doing car commercials, and he's, doing this really high end work. But it's just because he like had an interest in doing this certain thing, and so he did a bunch of it and got good at it and practiced it, and had it on the website, and that became his calling card. And then he went into that community and shared his work, and people were receptive. So yeah.
Kind of a follow-up or related question, and I love doing these Q&As because I think we get a new batch of people here who are taking our classes and going through this whole process. So for some of you, it may seem like we're repeating ourselves on some of this stuff from years past, but just a general, like, what are the first steps after? So Emma sounds like she's doing some sort of photo qualification education program. What if you were in school for photography and you just want to get paid with those skills? Aside from what we just kind of talked about with local community, meeting up with people, what are the first steps for someone who wants to do that?
What are the first steps for
getting
a
paid?
job?
I don't know. Any sort of using your photography skills for, I'm assuming, paid work.
It depends on what type of job it is that you want to do. Like if you want to be a wildlife photographer and sell prints, then you got to start getting out there and taking wildlife photos. If you want to start doing weddings and families and couples, you got to start meeting weddings and families and couples and taking photos. And I think as I go down the list and say that, the thing to do is to just start taking photos of the things that you want to take photos of, and that eventually like work will come around in that respect. Obviously you have to make money, but you have to work your way up to have a portfolio to prove that you can charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if I going back to when I was we it was not exactly photography because we all went to film and TV school, but be open to looking for a full-time job too. Sometimes there's full-time
Sure.
jobs that wear many hats and photography is one of them. So if you can hone the skills of someone who does a little bit of video work, a little video editing, content, that kind of stuff, that can help you land a potentially full-time job. And it doesn't just have to be in like what you would consider like a photography specific workplace, but my two of my first full-time jobs out of college were working at schools and colleges in their media department. And so I would say I was gonna say everyone needs photography now. I mean, with AI tools, there's a lot of
Oh
people
no.
transitioning to using AI generated photos. So these schools and any other business that used to hire out for photography or have an in-house photography media team might not be doing that as much anymore. But be open to doing that as well, or just looking for that kind of job. All right. Let's see. Next question. I'm scrolling for a next question. I feel like at this point, most of your guys' paid work and my paid work is just word of mouth through contacts.
It's all through word of mouth and contacts, I think, at this point. I think, yeah.
Well, and it's also, I mean, when a contact shares my work, it's sharing my website, and that people look at it and like, okay, this is someone we'd want to work with.
Mm,
Um, and that's where, if you're just getting started, you have to just keep taking photos, whether it's
mm-hmm.
paid or not. Ultimately, like, you have to keep experimenting and trying, you know, to push yourself creatively.
Yeah.
So
Put if you guys had questions, can you guys resubmit your questions in the chat because I kind of lost all the ones previously. Someone Peggy is asking about, I like nature and outdoor photography. Where can I display and sell them? And while you guys think about that, I kind of wanted to just talk about this idea that like there are some forms of photography where being paid as a full-time job, it's going to be very, very difficult. I don't know what percentage of wildlife and nature photographers are working full-time to do that. I know a lot of photographers who do the headshots, who do family photos, who do all of that, wedding photography, event photography, so that they can have the time and they can invest in the gear to do what they're more passionate about, which might be the wildlife photography or this other type of photography. So for someone like Emma was saying, she does a variety of photography. You might, if you strictly want to do photography as a business, you might need to focus on where it's easier to find work, which at least in my experience is like more of that family photography, portrait photography, couples, weddings, that kind of stuff. But any ideas for Peggy for displaying and selling nature and outdoor photography?
I went to there's a bagelry here in Santa Cruz. It's called the Bagelry. And I went to them and just asked them. They do a rotating series of artists, and they just let
And
local
bagels.
people, and bagels and coffee, and let people post their work there. And so I printed out my favorites and did a little just photo wall for them, and it was up for a month. Got some inquiries, and just put my card there with a QR code so people could reach out to me. I think that's kind of a nice way. Like, I personally, like, for everyone here, like, print your photos every now and then. Like, print a favorite photo. It's, I think, the best way to experience photography. And yeah, that'd be one way, is just reach out to local businesses, organizations that maybe do community art walls. It's a great way to get your stuff out there.
I would check out like local farmers markets or artisan markets. Here in Claremont, where I live, there's a weekly farmers market, and there's always a guy that has wildlife photography. And then traveling this summer, I was in Europe, and I noticed like at a handful of the little towns that we went to, there were markets, and there would be photographers with the photography of that local area, like nice architecture shots or just beautiful photos of the place. So depending on where you live, I think specializing in like super high quality photos of like your area, especially if it's somewhere that gets a little bit of tourist traffic or has anything unique to it in terms of local animals or flowers or plants or things like that. Maybe that's a place where you can, try out. I don't know. I don't know how much success these people are having. I don't think they're probably making a ton of money every weekend selling these prints, but this guy's out there every week with his wildlife photography. I should ask him. I'll talk to him next time I see him. Will, you have a little bit of experience selling prints on your website.
Yeah, I'd say selling prints on the website. I've done 2 versions of it where I'll sell them and I'll print them and I'll ship them and I'll send them out, and that is a ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll also have done, which I have now, between what I did this summer and just normal art prints, where I have a third-party website that kind of hooks into my Squarespace, so it looks like my website, but the printing is done through them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a system called Printique that's through Adorama. So that's a great way to display your work and a great way to sell stuff offline. And it takes away a lot of the hassle from having to print them and do them yourself if you're doing high volume. I do think that there's a world where, like you guys said, like finding a local place to like display your prints and sell them is going to do better. Up in Bridgeport, where this ranch was, there's a thing called the Rodeer, and it was all women-based Western artists. And so, they applied to get into this show and they got in, and one of them is like a really epic wildlife photographer in the area. And she sold a ton of prints and displayed them and got a lot of notoriety. And I talked to her, and she just goes to local, like Sam was saying, farmers markets and local, vendor meetups and stuff. And that's like a really good way to start doing it. And then hopefully that might drive people to your website.
And what was that? What was her type of photography? Did you say like what?
It was wildlife photography, it was like very specific to like Eastern Sierra Western photography. So like a lot of like wild Mustangs, a lot of like, bigger wild birds that don't live in San Dimas, actual like that kind of stuff. Or it was like buffaloes in the snow, like that kind of stuff. So, it was playing to the audience that wanted that stuff that was there. So
exactly. Yeah. I think that's important. We have a good technical question. I'm gonna do my best to ask about avoiding those high noon shadows. I think there's during a wedding, with group photos. This happens a lot with morning weddings. Then you get outside the chapel or wherever, and you're trying to get group portraits. What would you guys do?
Don't put them in the sun.
Find some shade.
Find some shade. If you ever have to put a subject in the sun and you're forced to, you got to like use the sun to backlight them and then expose to their faces so that the backlight can, you just let it go, because that's all you've got. I think if you really truly are at noon and it is really coming over their head and it's creating those raccoon eyes, there's literally nothing you can do outside of having a heavy flash. And that becomes a whole thing too. So find some shade, find a tree, find a awning, find a archway, find a better indoor place with big windows. It's just not worth fighting that. And the shade will look great. Promise. Yeah.
I mean, I think the hardest thing is finding shade where also the background is not completely overexposed. So finding something that can try to match, because if you just put them under a tree or something, one, watch out for that dappled light with a group photo where someone can have, a sunspot on their face and someone's in the shade. But also, if you do have nice flat shade, what's in the background? Think about that. And I mean, a lot of these cameras, you can bring back the highlights a bit or bring up the shadows, but trying to match that exposure from the foreground to background is ideally what you're going for. So yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. Let's see. Maria, this is a good question. What do you do when you become blah about your photos? Sometimes I'm not excited about my subjects or edits. Oh, I can talk about this question. So I think all of us go through periods of just not being inspired to go out and take photos. I mean, it just happens to all of us. That's part of the reason why we came up with Photo Dash, and it's been really fun for me, for us, because it just forces us to think differently and force us to like take a specific photo that maybe I wasn't considering. But also like just changing it up. And for me, like in the past month, I've fallen in love with taking photos of birds and trying to do a little bit of wildlife photography with the gear that I have. And for me, it's just like been super fun to go out and be like trying to track down these different birds. And I think for me, it's not so much of like just getting the photo of the bird. I was talking to my wife Isabel about it this morning because we went for a walk, but I downloaded the app where I can identify from the bird call which bird it is, and then I could like go out and try to like find, okay, I already got the oak titmouse, so I need to go get the northern mockingbird or whatever. And so it becomes this whole like chase. And for me, that's interesting. That might not be what's interesting to you, but it's like this constantly changing challenge. It's like a challenge for me to get these photos. So I think just like changing it up every now and then, like you don't have to go far, but like go to the next town over, go to the next little place and get outside and just change it up. Because I know that's hard when you're in the same place day after day trying to get inspired to go out and do photos. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've definitely
buy a new camera. Is that the answer?
Yeah,
have the right tools for the right job.
No, I mean, I think it's hard because for a long time I loved landscape photography and like set myself to go and like pursue getting certain shots and was like, going out to Yosemite right after a snowfall to get that shot. And I was really excited about it. I loved the process. And at some point I just landscape photos stopped caring about them so much. And I think for everyone that, kind of someone else had asked something about, how to compete in a saturated market. Like, I think there's a real balance between, and I understand like we're all trying to, keep bread on the table and have money come in and become a professional photographer. But like, you got to just do creatively what you want to do and like find a way to work within that. And like, there'll be times when certain things are less interesting to you. And if it's a paid gig, like you do it because it's a job. But if something's not feeling exciting to you, like this is a creative world. Try something different. Go experiment. Like, only walk out with one lens. Try to get motion blur. Try astrophotography. Try birding. Like whatever it is, I think it's to not try and hold it too tightly, but like have fun with it. It should be fun. And if you're just feeling blah about your photos, like, yeah, just try something different or take a break.
Yeah.
Go for a walk and don't take your camera. For a long time, I got sick of having my camera with me. I went on a trip specifically without a camera because I was like, I'm always traveling with gear and I don't want that. I was bummed I didn't bring my photo camera, but it was a good experiment. Yeah. So I think just, have fun with it. Try something different.
Yeah. Will, do you ever feel blah about your photos?
Oh, all the time. And I think part of the
instinct photos always.
I what?
You're just stoked on your photos always.
I'm always stoked on my photos. Yeah. Pumped. Yeah. No, 100% all the time. I think they're great. No, I don't know. I think there's a combination of like part of the reason why I ditched the Instagram for a little bit was because I was looking through the gallery and I was just like uninspired. And I'm like, tired of it. Like, what am I doing sharing all this stuff? And that was definitely part of it. And I do feel a little stagnant about that. That being said, I tried something for the first time. I actually did have my first rodeo, and I went to a rodeo this year, and I took photos at it, and I loved it. It was so fun, and it was challenging, and I got away with a lot of cool photos from it that I have not shared. And I'm going back to a rodeo at the end of this month just to go take photos of it because I want to see if I really do like it and it's something I'd be interested in. So again, like Sam said, try something different. I'd never done that before, and I just put myself in the place to do it and got it done. David Lynch has a saying about creativity is like catching little fishes. Like, your creativity are these little fishes, and you go fishing for them, and you want to sometimes find them, and sometimes there's a lot, and sometimes there's none at all, and sometimes you need to change streams or change lakes and go find another creative way to find those fishes, and they're not always that easy to catch. So I don't know, we all struggle with creativity, and I think that's a really fun metaphor.
Yeah. Man, my cat literally just chewed my mouse wire, and I can't move my mouse, so I can't.
Who is using a wired mouse anymore, Phil? Come on.
So I have a Bluetooth. I just opened it up. I haven't hooked it up to my computer.
This is why he won't get a new camera. He can't even get a wireless mouse.
Like, I literally can't do anything on my computer anymore. So silly. But yes. All right. Well, we have like time for maybe one more question. And then we're gonna be back. I think all of us all three of us will try to in a couple weeks for another round. So if we don't get to your questions, we'll chat another time. But there was a question about, or no, oh yeah, it was a question from Martinez, was it? I can't bring it up, but he was talking about how, or they were talking about, they've been taking like photos of soccer events or maybe their kids team or something, and now people are asking, how much do you charge to like come to a game and take photos of my player? That's a perfect example of what we're talking about, how like you just get known for this kind of stuff. Like, you bring your camera to your kid's soccer game, you take some good photos, you share them with the team, and then all of a sudden you're the only guy in the league that has a good camera and you know what you're doing with it. So people are interested in paying you for that kind of job. In terms of like pricing, again, this is so hard, I think, but like, what would the first steps for like that kind of photography, like going to a soccer game and photographing like one player, basically? How would you do that?
Man, I think there's two ways of doing it. If you're asked to take photos of a specific person and player, I'd say like $100 or a couple $100. Again, depending on where you are and where the market is, just focus on one player. You do like a day rate or an hourly rate, and then decide how many photos are going to come out. Or you go and you get permission of the team to go and take photos of everybody, and you build out a website and you charge $10 to $15 a download, something like that. I think there are pros that do that, and they just hit up a game all day. That's what I'm talking about. What I did this summer is like, that's high volume photography, and those can have different rates, but you're not guaranteed that you're going to make a ton of money, right? People might only buy one photo, and then you've only made $10. So
yeah,
I guess it just depends on your market, and you got to feel that out and test it out, I think.
I mean, there's a lot of questions about like also like going to a game like with kids and just taking a bunch of photos, like getting permission.
Got to get permission from the league.
Yeah, from the league and from the parents. But yeah, I think if it was like one player and one day, yeah, I don't know. You know, starting out, if you're starting out brand new, $100, go to that game, take a few photos, give them the prints or the files. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us live. We're going to cut it here. Head over to the Photography and Friends community. We got so much stuff going on over there. Lots of engaging people posting their photos for critiques into the gallery space. Also for the weekly challenges this week. I forget what this week is, but last week was contrast, and I will be going over the contrast photos in my second edition of Frame by Frame, my new weekly photo review show. So check that out tomorrow morning. I'll be back live. And we'll be back in a couple weeks here at the same time, same place for another Q&A.
Sweet.
All right, Sam, Will, thanks for being here. I am just going to have to like quit out of my computer to get out of this because I still haven't figured out my mouse. So I will talk to you guys later too. There's not going to be any post show green room chat with you you guys
too
today.
bad. Looking forward to chatting. We'll just stay on. Let's see if it holds Sam and I.
Yeah, so I hope this works. I'm just going to Control-Alt-Delete this right now.
Bye, Phil. I hope it saves.
All right.